Hi guys, welcome to another video. I'm back. I'm here at my medical school and I decided I'd make my video here for a little change of scenery. Last time we talked about 10 diseases that can be caused by smoking, and a common player in the development of these diseases were the white blood cells. Today we're going to talk more about white blood cells, particularly the myelocyte lineage. Today, we're going to talk more about white blood cells and talk about the different kind of blood cells that are formed in our body, particularly the myelocyte lineage. And so today, we're going to be talking about myelocyte hematopoiesis. Hematopoiesis comes from the two Greek words hemo and poiesis. Hemo means blood, and poiesis means the formation of, the creation of. Therefore, hematopoiesis is the formation of the different kinds of blood cells in our blood. Right? Where else would they be? In the sky. All blood cells come from the same kind of stem cell, which is our multipotent stem cell located in our bone marrow. IL-3 forms the myeloid stem cell, which in turn is the precursor of monocytes and granulocytes. Granulocyte macrophage colony stimulating factor is a 22 kilodalton molecule. Its production is stimulated by interleukin-1, tumor necrosis factor, and bacterial endotoxin, and this is produced by lymphocytes, myeloid cells, endothelial cells, and fibroblasts. This is basically what stimulates the formation of your granulocyte and macrophage colonies, hence the name. Hypersensitivity to GM-CSF is a hallmark of chronic juvenile myelomonocytic leukemia. Monocytes are the precursor of macrophages, and granulocytes are the precursor of eosinophils, basophils, and neutrophils. Different stimulating factors trigger the formation of these different lineages. Monocyte colony stimulating factor, or CSF1, as commonly thought, turns the monoblast into the monocyte in your blood. Monocyte colony stimulating factor is a heavily glycosylated chemical that circulates in your blood and in your urine. The receptor of this is the CFEMS that's shown in your monocytes, hence monocyte colony stimulating factor. Its expression is also increased in some tumors, especially ovarian carcinoma. Monocytes have a large bean-shaped nucleus and a frosted glass appearance when you look at these cells under the microscope. In your blood, the monocyte turns into your macrophage when it reaches your peripheral tissue. Macrophages are the primary unit of phagocytosis, phagocytosis meaning engulfing, and after which digesting bacteria. These are activated by gamma interferons, which cause it to engulf bacteria. These are commonly found in granulomas, which you'll find in diseases like TB. Macrophages contain several kinds of proteins, including which is MHC. MHC class 2 helps it interact with your T helper cells and present antigens formed from degenerated bacteria. And CD14, which allows it to interact with lipid A on lipopolysaccharides that are found in bacteria. Now, the kind of macrophage differs depending on the organ where it's located. Osteoclasts are located in bone and are also involved with bone remodeling. Microglia are located in the brain. Langerhans cells are located in your skin. Kupffer cells are located in your liver. Histiocytes are included in your connective tissue. Now, after monocytes and macrophages, you also have granulocytes. These are called granulocytes because they contain granules that it releases when it comes into contact with any bacteria or any foreign pathogen that is a danger to our body. Granulocytes are stimulated by the presence of granulocyte colony stimulating factor, or GCSF. No, that is not cerebrospinal fluid. This is a 19 to 20 kilodalton molecule, and this is secreted by endothelial cells and fibroblasts. This is in charge of activating mature granulocytes. Its production also its production also inhibits migration. Overproduction of this molecule is associated with what is called sweet syndrome or acute neutrophilic dermatitis. The progenitor of granulocytes is the myeloblast, which will either transform into a band cell and subsequently a neutrophil in your bone marrow, or into a eosinophil or a basophil in your blood. Now, first, we're going to talk about the most predominant white blood cell located in your bloodstream, and that is your neutrophil. I mentioned that your myeloblast will turn into your band cell when in your bone marrow, and the band cell subsequently transforms into the neutrophil when it enters your bloodstream. Your neutrophil is essentially your first line of defense against bacteria. It's characterized by a multi-lobe nucleus, and it possesses a lot of enzymes in its granules. These enzymes include collagenase, lactoferrin, alkaline phosphatase, and lysozyme. These are important for attacking any bacteria that it comes into contact with. Neutrophils are involved with the acute inflammatory response, meaning that they're the first line of defense against any invading bacteria. These are attracted by chemotactic agents to the site of inflammation. These agents include C5a, interleukin 8, leukotriene B4, platelet activating factor, or kallikrein. Needless to say, neutrophils increase with bacterial infection, and an increase may also be indicative of pathologic myeloid proliferation. Now, after the neutrophils, I'm going to talk about eosinophils. Eosinophil differentiation is stimulated by IL-5, which is also produced by eosinophils themselves as well as mast cells. Now, unlike neutrophils, eosinophils have a bilobe nucleus. These contain eosinophilic granules, or whatever granule can turn pink when stained under a microscope. These granules contain histaminase, meaning it processes histamine, and these also include peroxidase, neurotoxin, major basic protein, and cationic protein. Eosinophils are essentially what phagocytose antigen-antibody complexes. Eosinophils are upregulated when your body is exposed to an allergen or an invading parasite. These are also related to diseases like Hodgkin's lymphoma, Churg-Strauss syndrome, myeloproliferative disease, chronic adrenal insufficiency, and asthma. Finally, myeloblasts also turn into basophils and mast cells. These two cells have a similar precursor, although seem to serve two different functions. Now, basophil is named because its granules stain a very dark blue. These granules produce histamine, heparin, and leukotrienes. Histamine is highly associated with allergies. Heparin, in turn, is also associated with bleeding. And finally, leukotrienes are associated with recruitment of other immune cells. Normally, you have a very low count of basophils in your blood, and basophilia, which is increased basophils in your blood, can be a sign of chronic myeloproliferative leukemia. Mast cells also come from the same precursor cell of basophils, and these are activated with C3a and CA5a. These are involved in type 1 hypersensitivity, which takes place when your body comes into contact with a foreign antigen that it's, hypersensitive to. Some drugs which inhibit mast cell production include cromolyn sodium. Likewise, activators of mast cells can include radiocontrast dye, vancomycin, and opioids. That's why these drugs are associated with some hypersensitive adverse reactions. Ooh, that was a mouthful. That was my video on the myelocytic lineages in hematopoiesis. I hope you liked it. It was based on Lang Hematology in Clinical Practice by Hillman et al., as well as First Aid for the USMLE 2019 by Taulia. Did you like that video? If so, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know as well if you want to talk about any other topic related to hematopoiesis or any other physiologic process at all. Likewise, please like this video and please subscribe and hit the bell for future videos. This has been Life with Juan, and remember, live life to the fullest because you only have one life to live.
Word of the day.
Hematopoiesis. Note to self, talk more about GM-CSF and GCSF. And histiocytes are connected. And I lost track of where I was. Monocytes are the precursor of macrophages, and granulocytes are the precursor of eosinophils, basophils, and neutrophils. Right, I almost forgot that. Crap, I did not mean to press that. And systems. Did I say crap? I totally said crap. Platelet activating factor. Chronic pro. Its production is stimulated by interleukin-1, tumor necrosis factor, and bacterial endotoxin. Lang hematology and clinical. That was my video on the That was my video on myelopoiesis.